Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of the Catch-Up Podcast from Salesfire. My name is James Leeds, Head of Client Service at Salesfire. In this episode, we're joined by Liam Quinn from Reach Interactive. Now, it's a discussion we haven't had much of before in the previous podcast. We're talking about SMS marketing and how it affects e-commerce in particular. We hear a lot about Liam's story, how he kind of got to his position in Reach Interactive, but also, more importantly, successful campaigns for e-commerce retailers through that and how it's been effective for them. It's a really good episode. Hope you enjoy it. Liam, how's it going? You all right?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. How are you both doing? Looking forward to having a chat.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, can't complain, mate. Can't complain. It's a busy week here this week, to be fair, but yeah, it's been quite productive. Been good. Thanks for joining us. First of all, it's obviously I was a guest on your pod a couple of weeks back, talking about awards and things like that. On the back of that, do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, who Reach Interactive are, and things like that?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll sort of start at the beginning. I know that everyone is more interested in SMS than me, but I'll give you sort of a quick introduction. So, my name is Liam Quinn. I work at a company named Reach Interactive, based in South Yorkshire. So I went to university at Leeds Beckett, was there for 4 years. Had a great time there, had a chance to study abroad. So I lived in California for almost 2 years.
Nice.
Called Sacramento. Most people have never heard of it, but it's actually the capital of California. It's about an hour away from San Francisco. Came back, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with my life. I think I was about 23. So I did a master's degree at the University of Sheffield, which was just up the road. That was pretty fun. And then I hit sort of that patch where you're like, I need to find my first job. And I ended up actually working at a call center for a year. And I can hands down say that that was the worst period of my life.
I've been there, mate, done the same thing. Exactly the same.
Not a great time, but I do think you sort of pick up on some good communication skills. So there are a few benefits besides the sort of very pressured work lifestyle is in that industry.
Yeah.
And then I found a job at Reach Interactive. So Reach is in Doncaster. They had an office down south and also the sales office in Doncaster.
Yeah.
And they took me on as a graduate. I think I was about 25, so quite late for a graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they had an agency who was already with them, who worked there for 12 months and sort of got all the SEO structure in place and worked on the PPC campaigns. And then after the 12-month period, they recruited me alongside the agency, so Reach and the agency. And then the agency stayed there for 12 months to train me up. So I got sort of like a really great, perfect environment where you can learn on the go and you have someone who has like years of experience to lean on. And then after that 12 months passed, the agency transitioned out and I took over. So I've been sort of leading the way for just over a year now. And it's been really cool. Yeah, it was a really good transition. So if there's any agency listeners, it's something to consider. I think it's a good option when it's the right fit for businesses. Definitely helped me progress. And in terms of Reach, so that's sort of what we'll be talking about when we get going. Reach is an SMS marketing provider. So you can go onto Reach's platform and send texts to your customers or to other key stakeholders for a number of different reasons. The obvious thing is promotional sort of messages, but there are lots of different things that we'll get into in a moment. You can do that on our dashboard, or you can also do it through an API. So if you have a tech team or sort of a bigger structure, you can automate that system to make it happen sort of seamlessly in the background.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so sort of that's my background and sort of where I am now.
It's an interesting point you made there on the agency side of things. Just want to touch on that if we can, please, Liam. Now, I'm predominantly from an agency background, so Salesfire is my first job into SaaS. I've worked client side, but I'd probably say 14 years of my 16-year career in digital has been agency side. So this relationship with the agency who kind of like held your hand over a 12-month period of that, were they fully aware of what that scenario was? They knew they were basically getting 12 months of working with Reach, and they knew at the end of that they'd be handing it over and that's it done.
Yeah, so that was their pitch to Reach before I even joined. They said, I'll come in, it's a 2-year program, we'll sort everything out in the background, get all the sort of framework out there, and then I'll help you recruit someone locally or wherever, train them up, and then I'll leave and I'll move on to the next sort of group of people. And the guy who runs it, if I'm allowed to mention, he's called Chris. from Stage Digital. He does a great job of doing it. Super nice guy. He's taught me a lot of great things. And yeah, he's got several companies that he does that for, sort of on a rotating basis. So works really well.
Oh, it's an interesting format, that, and fair play for them for doing it, because it's always been one of those things. It's like, I don't know, the one part of the agency world I don't like, it's kind of like smoke and mirrors scenario, where it's like, no, we'll tell you what we're doing, but as much as you need to know, rather than actually teaching the ins and outs, the complexities of whatever channel they're looking for. So, what was the name of the agency again? Say State Digital.
Stage Digital, yeah.
No, fair play to them. It's
like the first mentor that I've sort of had in the industry, called Chris Crick. So, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him.
Interesting concept. It might be worth us reaching out to them, having a conversation about that, because it's
I was thinking that.
It is. It's something that doesn't really happen now. There is a lot of kind of agencies going down the consultancy side of things, and the in-housing scenario as well. But that one is like, no, there's a 2-year deal in regards to, no, we're going to get your team up to scratch and then walk away. I mean, fair play. The long and short of it, yeah. Now,
for everyone, but I think for the right environment, it's a good fit. And from the in-house perspective, you're going to get something long-term out of it. You're not just going to get an agency that's taking a set fee on retainer for 12 months who might potentially do a bad job. You get sort of the long-term deal. So
that's always the concern, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, retention and retainer value is huge for an agency, and if you're losing something in 2 years, I dare say that gives you 2 years to try and recover that as well. But it's an interesting concept. It's something researching, just for me being a bit of a loser really, and having not much to do in my life. I wouldn't mind knowing more about that. But also, so your pod, Liam. So I had a first listen to that a couple of weeks back, 20-minute marketing podcast. Then I was on one following Neil Andrew at PTC Protect, discussing industry awards and stuff like that. Do you want to tell a little bit more about your pod? Because I'll be honest, it's about blowing hot air up your rear end, mate. I quite liked it. I like the concept of it. So tell me more.
Yeah, sounds good. So when I sort of joined Reach, probably about 6 weeks in, my boss, John, said, we want you to start a podcast. No one in our industry's got one. It's something that's sort of creeping up. Like, you see more and more companies getting involved, whether it's through like recordings like this with video or webinars or just standard podcast format. And it was something that I was sort of petrified. Like, it just scared the hell out of me. But I thought, you know what, if I speak to people on the phone for 8 hours a day for a year, which I did beforehand, I should be pretty good at communicating and finding out what people's issues are and sort of getting to the bottom of the questions. We launched it, and I wasn't really a big podcasting listener at the time, but I did listen to a few like ones like Peter Crouch and stuff like that. And my big issue was I would drive to work, and when I wanted to listen to a podcast, I'd get to work in 25 minutes and there'd still be 15-20 minutes left of the episode. So I'm like, well, I could listen to that at lunch or after work, but on other occasions you just get caught up on other things or whatever, your mood changes, so you just end up listening to half an episode. So we wanted to sort of keep it short, and we also wanted to keep it short because I think it's a lot easier to sell it to a guest when you say, hey, I've got a podcast that's 20 minutes long. Do you have maybe 30-40 minutes to record it, as opposed to saying, hey, do you want to record this hour and a half long podcast? However long it is, it's probably going to take up several hours of your day. So it's quite a good way to pitch it. And then we started out with like 7 episodes, and we just recorded them with people locally. So Chris was actually on one from Stage Digital. I had someone called Liam from the Yorkshire Wildlife Park, a few other people up here in Sheffield and Doncaster area, and kind of just threw them all out there all at once. So threw 7 episodes out all on the same day, all at the same time, and realized that was probably a very bad decision, because we could have filtered that through 7 weeks of content with different posts and blog posts and imagery and stuff like that. But it gained fairly good traction, and people sort of shared it. And then we started doing it on a weekly basis. So now we release episodes every Wednesday. And we're up to 64 was the one from this week. Yours, James, was episode 62 a couple of weeks ago. And doing really well, getting a lot of great traction on LinkedIn from people just adding me saying like, hey, I'd listen to the show, and like, you'd never dream of like someone from overseas or like random countries like getting in touch. So it's been really good for us as a brand to raise awareness and sort of showcase ourselves as sort of an industry leader in our market that's doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
How have you found growing it? Have you, obviously we said you've had people overseas getting in touch with you. What have you found the biggest challenge to sort of growing your audience? That's the point we're at the minute. That we're sort of getting our heads around.
It is tough, isn't it? Because like you don't want to force it down people's throats when your primary goal is to sell your product. Like in all honesty, like we sell text messages that has nothing to do with a podcast, and that's our main goal. So it's very hard to like find a balance and like not send podcast updates to our email list who really want to know about SMS trends and tips and stuff. So it's finding a balance, but mainly it's just been organic through LinkedIn and socials. I'd say 90% of our growth comes from LinkedIn, and I think you just have to make sure that you pick the right guests that are going to share it themselves. And when I say share it, not just sort of comment on your post, but actually you can send them an image of it or the artwork and they'll post about it themselves. Get their audience involved, which is the best way to sort of get reach. And I think the other one is consistency. So back then we threw them out, and we would maybe be 14 days, 16 days, 20 days, like between episodes, and one might come out on a Monday morning and the other might come out on a Thursday at 4:00. So for anyone listening, they'd just be like, when's the next one coming? There's no sort of consistency. So back around maybe last February, probably about a year ago now, we changed it to a structured time. So it was like once a week all the time, and it just naturally fell on Wednesdays. I think on Mondays, people want to get on with their work, and on Fridays, people are sort of winding down. So we thought middle of the week might work well. There's no sort of statistics or data behind it. We just picked Wednesdays. And it worked.
Got to start somewhere.
So it started somewhere, and then it just became a thing. So I think consistency and sharing it, and we're also fortunate that we have a page on it dedicated to it on our website. So that's helped because we ask some guests link back to it from their sites or their blogs or some podcasts like ranking charts and stuff like that, link back to it. So that's helped it grow organically. And if you search digital marketing podcasts and stuff like that, it does sometimes appear. So that's helped us as well.
That's cool. I think consistency is a key one for us. I think that's one we've been trying to get our heads around. And I'll be honest, your 20-minute marketing podcast, before James told me he was on it, I was quite well aware of what you guys are doing over there quite a bit. I'd listened to a couple. And I think some of the ways that you're getting it out with sort of using Linktree and stuff like that, they're just some quite innovative ways you've been doing it. Hence, that's basically why I asked the growth question, to be honest. When James told me he was going on your podcast, I was well aware of it. I'd listened to it. I understood sort of the structure of it. So it's good to see that that consistency. I think that is really key, especially if I'm going to engage with something.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think, Linktree helps. So making it really easy for people to listen, because I think around 30% or 40% of our listeners come from channels that aren't Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And those are the two that you'd always think that people would listen on. But actually there's channels like Overcast, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Stitcher's a big one in the US. So getting it on as many channels as you can and making it accessible to people so that they can just click on a link and choose where they want to go, instead of saying, here's a new podcast episode, here's the Spotify link, when in actual fact 70% of our audience doesn't listen on Spotify. So
that's a good point. I think people do get hung up. I mean, we did in the beginning, actually. I was like, it needs to go on Spotify, it needs to go on Apple Music. But then when we looked at the stats, people aren't really listening on there. We get I think actually Spotify we get quite a bit, but I think YouTube we get a bit as well. It's the social cuts that sort of do more damage for us, I think. So it's cool to hear that, actually, because we were really hung up on the names of where they were being where they were being hosted rather than where our audience was, which is so it's encouraging to hear.
Should we flip things onto SMS?
Yeah, let's do it. I think
let's go to SMS, because if we're getting you on here, Lee, we might as well talk about your product, mate. So, Reach Interactive are an SMS marketing company. I dare say things have changed quite a bit for you guys. I look back to when SMS marketing was kind of coming round. So I was working at the agency that were doing it around 2009, 10, and there was quite a stigma attached to it. But have you found you'll notice mobile usage. I'll use search as an example. So Google searches on a mobile device overlapped desktop devices in 2017. Have you noticed the importance of SMS marketing in particular has risen because of that?
It is. It's an interesting one because everyone's all about sort of mobile these days and switching over to really focusing on that area.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about SMS, the first text was sent in 1994. So like we're bordering on 30 years ago.
Wow.
And all of these other channels that you use, whether it's socials or sort of new trends and things like that, they're fairly new in the market. So SMS has sort of stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
But we have seen sort of a change about how it was used, which I'll come on to. I could probably talk about that now. So like anyone who's listening that's older than me will probably associate SMS with people buying big data. It's probably the same for email. So you just buy 100,000 SMS or email contacts and send out a mass email or text message that says, we are, let's say, a food company. We are Pizza, just a random name. Get 20% off if you sign up for first-time customers. But let's be honest, 95,000 of those 100,000 people probably got no interest in it. Pizzas are probably a bad example because everyone likes pizza, but usually it's more than that. So like probably 95% have no interest whatsoever, and then the other 5% might have somewhat of an interest, but some of those might think, well, I don't like that they texted me. Some of them might be in the wrong area. Some of them might not be the right demographic. Mm-hmm. So actually, it wasn't really as targeted as it should have been. It was just sort of a spammy sort of message. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't everyone that did that, but there's sort of an easy way into collecting hundreds of thousands of contacts and just spamming people that had no interest. Yeah. Whereas now, over the last maybe 5 to 10 years, it's really sort of dialed down to become a bottom of the funnel sort of channel. So you text your most loyal customers with offers, or you text people that have engaged on your website or your socials, and you get them to sort of filter through that channel. Okay. So instead of having 100,000, you might only have 2,000 SMS subscribers, but you know that you're going to be able to send them really cool offers or send them important stuff, and they're your most loyal customers. And if they've given you their contact number, that's one of probably the most personal things that they can give you. So that means that they're willing to let you communicate with them and sort of offer things to them. So I think, yeah, it's definitely changed like the way that the industry's set up. And part of that was GDPR. And I think part of that was just marketers and businesses realizing that actually we should be using it in a different place, in a different way.
Mm-hmm. That was going to be one of my questions on that one, to be fair, just on GDPR, Liam. So when I was, again, agency side, this is about 2-3 years ago, we had a client that came to us who were heavily reliant on text message marketing. It was pretty much one of their only channels. And they GDPR was really affecting how much they could do with that one. So this was pretty much drumming up brand new business. So then they were looking at Google Ads as an alternative for that. Has GDPR really affected you guys as a company, or have you just had to think smarter?
Well, I joined just after it came into play, so I was for the sort of the implementation stages. But I know that it was a bit of a panic for all businesses in terms of, can we email people anymore? Can we text them? Like, what can we do? Mm-hmm. But for us, we've always been a company that has like a really structured auditing process. So like if someone signs up for an account with us and that we can't link it to a registered business, then we're going to disable it. We're not going to let them send text messages because we don't support businesses that spam or that send out a spammy link and then con people of the public. So I'm sure there might be other providers in the industry that sort of have less of a structured process, but we've always had that in place to try and prevent those people from getting access to our site. So in that sense, not much has changed. But yeah, we have to sort of be careful in terms of what people are sending and how they're doing it. So we just try to educate and let people know about that. Like, for example, overseas, there's rules in certain countries like France, you can't send on Sundays, and other countries, there's time off and stuff. So it seems to be a bit more regulated in certain areas, but which I think is a good thing. But it just sort of makes us have to watch out and sort of monitor what our clients are doing to make sure they're following rules.
Can't send a text message on a Sunday. That's crazy.
Is that SMS specific, or is that sort of marketing outreach?
I think it could be completely like marketing outreach, so like emails and stuff like that as well.
Wow.
That would be a question for our international team, but or maybe Google. But I'm 99% sure that it's Sundays, so it's pretty interesting. I think maybe that we could do with that here, but then also I think Sundays with football and stuff that's going on, there is an opportunity for like food and like the hospitality industry to really dial down on Sundays as well.
Yeah. But one of my questions is, so what sort of differences do you see between people using SMS for B2B and B2C? So do you see people doing more sort of current client engagement and more informing clients of what's going on with their accounts and things like that, B2B?
Yeah, I think B2B is interesting. We don't have as many B2B clients because obviously there's somewhat less of a way to use it, but the obvious one is you can still use it for promotions. But I think one really cool way that you can use it is internally too. So you could actually maybe like link us up with something like Zapier. I'm sure you guys all know what that is, but for anyone else, it's like an automation platform that you can connect different apps together. So let's say that someone was like a really small business and they were in B2B or they were a SaaS company or something. They could link up to us so that they get, every time they get a sign-up email, for example, they'd also get a text that comes through our service. So, or anytime someone entered something into a chatbot or entered something, they could get alerted through us automatically. So that's a cool way of sort of the internal side, not just for B2B, but also for B2C. So you can actually use it to keep yourselves in the loop or keep your employees in the loop if something happens, which can be a bit handier than stuff like email. That is a great channel, but sometimes things just get missed or you don't get notifications as quickly. So that's a cool way. And then, so you can use it for anything really. So you can use it for after sales support. So I suppose that's a really good one in B2B when you want to make connections. So if you want to send feedback requests, you could do that. You can send messages with like a URL on there, like a short URL, which takes people to landing pages. So you could put surveys in there or form films and stuff. So there's lots of different ways that you can use it. I think B2B predominantly use it less just because they've got less contacts. And it's sort of harder to get people to sign up in B2B because people might be using a work phone or they might want to sort of keep themselves separate from their business jobs. But there's definitely a market for it, just as equally as consumer side. Yeah,
I mean, prospecting and the business development side of stuff and the sales pipeline immediately springs to mind for me, especially when you've got inquiries coming through, to be able to get that text through. I know those guys, they're not meant to be working on a weekend, but you know what sales guys are like, they're never stopping, especially the guys here. So I imagine they'd be over the moon to be getting a lead straight away by a text message.
And I think you get so many sales pitches on LinkedIn and email now. Like LinkedIn is almost ridiculous. But let's say that someone is interested and maybe they don't have enough time. If you say to them, all right, can I maybe text you in 2 to 4 weeks time? Because I know that your email inbox and your LinkedIn is probably flooded. Who knows? They might say, no, I'm not comfortable giving it you. But if they do, it gives you a sort of a direct channel that you know that they're probably going to read and acknowledge. And I think half the battle is just getting them to think about you, because who knows, it might be something that they're interested in, but they just don't have time, or they have a million other things. We all know what it's like when you're working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Things stack up really quickly.
So anecdotally speaking, just a quick one, like I was actually, I got a call a couple of weeks ago from a company, and I listened to the pitch and I was quite interested, and they've been trying to get back in touch with me the last few days, but it's just been the wrong time. Honestly, if I'd have got a text just saying, here's a link, just book some time in, I probably would have done that.
Yeah, I completely agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It can take some of the questions out to ask you as well, Liam. So I'm wholly surprised at how little SMS marketing I get.
I was just about to say that as well,
from e-commerce retailers in comparison to emails. Bearing in mind, I always put my mobile number in when I'm going through the checkout process, as well as my email. I accept everything because I just like buying stuff, if I'm being brutally honest. I'm easy to sell to. But I bought a bin store the other day. So on my phone here, I've had a text from the range telling me that my order's been dispatched. But these, all I get through here is just group text. I can log in my email here and I'll have loads of email marketing, but no SMS. Why do you think that is? Do you still think there's a stigma attached to it, Liam, or?
Yeah, it's hard to answer that because I think, first of all, email is and always will be the cheapest. So you can go on MailChimp and send out 1,999 emails for completely free.
Yeah.
You will only get those basic templates. But even SMS, so like our cheapest option is 1.6p per message. So it's not that expensive. Like you're talking under 2p to communicate with someone who could potentially spend, I don't know, let's say it's an e-com or retailer, like most of the value of most things are like 20 quid or over these days usually. And it might not just be one purchase, it could be someone that ends up converting multiple times down the line. So I think email is always everyone's go-to that they just like feel like they have to do first. But you know, when you think about it, like I always go back to this example, like I don't know about you guys, but you always end up having to subscribe to emails because most of the time previously you had no choice. Like you had to opt in to at least even get like a welcome email or maybe an offer or something. And I must get 50 to 100 a day. And the amount of times I actually go into a retail offer is very little because they all just end up being the same or similar, especially around Black Friday or like Christmas or like big special offers. So you just sort of like get filtered into all of those others. Whereas SMS, you only need to write out 160 characters and press send. Sort of a different point there, but you only need to type out 160 characters. It's about 3 lines of text. You press send and it goes to someone and it goes into their inbox. Whereas email, you have to spend at least probably an hour designing a good one. Some people might have templates. Some people might claim that they can do it quicker. But if you want a really cool email template, you're talking at least an hour or 2, I think. And your big brands, your big retailers probably spend a lot more time on that with creatives and sort of GIFs and things like that. So I don't really know why it's not used as much. I think maybe it's people a little bit hesitant to use it over email, I think. But personally, I think it shouldn't be compared. I think they've got different objectives. With email, you can send pictures and catalogs and examples of what people are buying, and with SMS you can sort of do flash sales and you can do like the post sale support. So you can send people delivery and order confirmations that I would much rather get through SMS than an email because sometimes you just miss it. So I think they've both got a great role, and I think you can always, if you're looking to start, you can why not use your email list to promote your SMS club and talk about the benefits of both.
And you know what I was thinking there as well, like when it comes to cost per click as well, that's a competitive price, one basically a penny a text. So your ad spend and your Google ads and that type of thing, you're looking at your CPC for that stuff. That's competitive, especially when it's so direct.
It's massively competitive, and I think the point Liam's made, and I think this is one thing, like for any e-commerce retailer like listening in to this pod, is like your email in regards to real estate space is alongside a lot. If you send your email on a Friday, honestly, I'll go in my personal email inbox here and I will be bombarded with fashion retailers, furniture retailers, anything I bought something off before, I'll be bombarded. I've had one text today from an e-commerce retailer, which is customer service related in regards to letting me know my order's been dispatched. This is an opportunity, I think, and try and move away from that stigma, try something targeted perhaps. I mean, he's a very, very simple question. If you're going to go up an e-commerce retailer today and you were going to give them kind of one key to success to make SMS marketing work for them, what would it be?
I think it actually goes back to us chat about the podcast and its consistency. So, and I think you can take this with any channel. Like if you might sign up to SMS, you probably get good results on your first campaign because it's new to your brand. People are interested and intrigued from a customer standpoint. But then you have to find a balance. So you don't want to send an SMS offer out every Friday night because the last one worked, because really quickly people are just going to wait for that offer. So I think you really need to sort of think about when you're going to send offers. Is it going to be when everyone else is doing Black Friday campaigns and sort of when consumers expect it, or could it be a random period of time? Maybe like, for example, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. You could do it 2 weeks before. And try and be consistent. So maybe put it around events, or maybe do it quarterly or something. It's just so that people get a little bit excited, but they don't expect it on a regular basis. Like a good
Yeah.
one is Domino's. Like every now and again, I'll get a text on a Friday from Domino's and it'll have 20-30% off. And chances are I could probably get that offer on the web, on the internet by a quick Google search. But they just make me think, ooh, maybe do I want pizza tonight? And sometimes I don't purchase, and sometimes I have done a couple of times, but it at least gets you thinking about like, yeah, maybe this weekend I'll do that or something. So you never know who you can influence. And I think, yeah, going back to you getting one text, James, like how many texts do we get? People, and that's sort of another angle on it, is that a lot of people are like, people don't text anymore. People use WhatsApp, people use DMs on Instagram or Snapchat or wherever you are. But if you flip that around, potentially that's a good thing because you've got no other competition. Like if I get a text,
that's what I mean.
I'll 100% read it because I can't stand having the notification there saying that I've got an unread text.
That's the other thing.
I hate it.
Whereas on email, if I get 50 emails and I haven't got time, maybe I haven't checked in a day or two, I'll just select all and delete them all at the same time, and I won't even click inside it to see what's in there.
Yeah.
But with a text, you read it. And so I think, like, why use that as a negative that people are moving away to channels like WhatsApp? It kind of gives you a new platform that you can turn into a really cool commercial platform that people don't use to engage with their friends necessarily anymore, but they still use it. So I think it has a lot of opportunities.
It's crazy, that, isn't it? It's almost held in a higher regard as a method of communication to the Snapchats, to the WhatsApps, things like that. You place a higher value on it just because naturally that's going to come from someone you know is in your contact book, is a friend or family or something like that.
Yeah,
an interesting one. It's almost like back in the day it sort of reached boiling point with it and it was completely saturated, and now everyone stopped doing it, and now nobody's doing it, and it's sort of coming back. Like it's a bit cyclical, isn't it? It's really interesting.
It's developed a sort of a reputation of being a trustworthy and credible channel. So like if you go to a doctor's, like people feel comfortable discussing doctor's results and tests over text message. People are willing to talk about, I don't know, sensitive info like applications and things like that. Obviously they're not sharing like personal details and stuff, but you would accept like a result like COVID test, for example. You get a COVID result by text message.
Yeah.
You wouldn't ever get that result via Facebook Messenger or
that's so true. That is so true.
It's become a tried and trusted sort of accepted way of communicating sensitive information. So I think as long as you don't cross the line, you can speak to your customers on a personal level and sort of share stuff that's going on, whether that's their orders or things like that. So I think it's really cool.
Awesome.
That's a great shout. It's a great shout. What's in the pipeline for Reach over the next 12 months then, Liam? What you guys got planned? Anything new and innovating coming out, or is it keep on plugging away?
Predominantly, it's keep on plugging away. I think one of the challenges of SMS is it is what it is in a sense. So, you know, like a platform like TikTok, if you're doing TikTok marketing, like they can add all sorts of crazy things. But I think the value of SMS is its simplicity, that you can just go on there, type a message, add a link, press send. But we're always looking to sort of optimize that process in terms of how people can add links, what they look like, whether you can add specific things. Like at the moment, emojis take up quite a few characters in sort of your character limit. It would be nice if that can get decreased depending on regulation and stuff like that. And there are new channels that are coming along that try or will try to compete with SMS. So RCS is one, which is Google's version of iMessage. And they're trying to sort of make like an RCS for business platform where you can like have like sort of an interactive conversation. But the problem with that is that half of the country has iPhone. It's probably slightly lower than that, but half of the country has an iPhone. And the problem with iMessage for business is the opposite, is the exact same. So there's stuff like that always is cropping up, and like you have WhatsApp for business, you have Facebook Messenger for business and stuff like that now as well. But I always go back to the point which my boss John makes, is that all of those things are great, but you have to download them. So you don't have to download a text or like your SMS section of your phone, even if you have an old phone, even if it's your grandparents using an old Nokia or something. Like at the very least, they'll be able to get a text from a company They probably won't sign up for e-com stores, but they are getting smarter as a generation. So who knows? But some of them don't have smartphones, and some of them definitely won't have TikTok and Instagram. So you are ruling out an entire generation potentially that might one day go to the shop and see a flyer or a sign saying, text this number and we'll give you 10% off. And they'll think, oh, I'll do that because I like to save money like everyone else.
Amazing. That's so true. I think we could go on about this forever, couldn't we? I'm just getting the wrap-up sign from our producer now. But yeah, I think we should definitely get this going again. But I've got a million questions still.
I have some examples.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, let's dive into them. So I had a couple of like e-com examples because I know that most people will be listening in e-com, and then I had just a few examples of how SMS has been used in a fun way, because I think there's a stereotype that it has to be sort of boring and structured when actually you can get it involved in other channels too. So there's two sort of ways that someone can subscribe to your SMS list. One of them is that they go onto your website and they just enter their details, contact number, and then they just tick a box saying like, yeah, I'll subscribe, just like email and sort of an order confirmation purchase. And then the other one with SMS is that you can actually set up like a short code. So you could text opt-in or yes to a 5-digit number. So let's say it's like 55521, could be a brand's 5-digit number. That I have no idea, I just made it up. That's the more expensive option, but if you are a big retailer or a big e-commerce store, it is a realistic option. And that opens up everything because you can use that on audio, you can use it on radio, you can use it on podcasts, TV. All you have to do is run a campaign and say, oh, by the way, if you want to find out more about my company, text this 5-digit number with the words yes. And that's one of the easiest. And like your entire sales team and marketing team should be able to remember a 5-digit number. So that's really cool. So that sort of takes me on to the example. So I mentioned it, I've mentioned it a few times now, but Chipotle is a really good example because they are a fast casual brand in the US. If anyone doesn't know, they sort of sell Mexican food. And they try to involve it on socials by running campaigns on like Instagram and stuff. They'll post pictures and say, text our 5-digit number with a special word. Like for Halloween, they do like sort of like a scary theme. And then during the NBA finals, the basketball finals a few years ago, every time the announcers said the word free, which is quite often because they take free throws in basketball, you could text the word free to their 5-digit number and get a chance to win like a free burrito. So I thought that's a really cool way of opening it up to new platforms. And then over the last year, I sort of pick up on just any brand using SMS, so it doesn't have to be our clients. And a lot of successful ones have been skincare and makeup companies. So there's one in the US called Peace Out Skincare that I read an article on a few weeks ago. And they 18 to 35% of their monthly revenue last summer came from SMS just by offering introductory offers like 10 or 20% off. So I think that's like a huge chunk of their revenue just coming from SMS offers. There was a makeup brand called Purr, I think that's how you pronounce it. They used to sort of send out just offers that are like 10, 20% off, etc. And last year, due to COVID, they flipped it around and they sort of changed their strategy. So they were sending out makeup tutorials and like advice and tips and stuff. And for the first 6 weeks, I think it was 20 or 25% that they increased their subscriber list. So it just shows you don't have to sell all the time. You can actually use it to educate and sort of build an audience and engage with people. And then the final one was one of our brands that uses us. So it's like a national perfume shop. I'm not able to name the exact one. You can find it in high street stores when we return. And they ran a campaign at Christmas, and their click-through rate on the link in the campaign was at 55%. So 55% of their audience clicked through, and it was one of the first campaigns that they ever did. And like email click-throughs, email open rates is about 15 to 20%. So that's open rate, not click-through rate. And I actually pulled out one of the sample texts just to give you a bit of an example, because I think, you know, without context, like what did they send and how did they do it? So they said, I have it on a screen behind me, so I'm just going to look that way. So they said, get Xmas all wrapped up, 50% off your second items, shop now, with a link to the website or the landing page. And that was it. That's as simple as it was.
Wow.
I mean, it's not overcomplicating the process, is it? I think
Yeah.
that's an important thing here. You've only got a small piece of real estate in regards to the text message.
Yeah.
Get that message out as quickly as possible, and it obviously works.
Yeah. And then one thing that we haven't even gone into is that they can see all of the phone numbers that clicked on that. So 2 weeks down the line, if someone clicked on that and didn't purchase, they can then say, we saw that you looked on his landing page, but you didn't act. Here's another 5%, or here's free delivery, or something like that. And then you can maybe take the other half that didn't click through, that probably needed a bigger incentive, and do something different with that, or run a separate campaign. So you can really dial down on that data and use it for people who did click and didn't click, and think about.
Yeah.
I didn't even consider it from a remarketing perspective as well. That's a huge strength for it as well. Especially, it's just how direct it is and how instantly it's there.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I think it's. I think it would be good to get you on again, Liam. To be honest, because I've got an abundance of questions I want to go through. So, what I think might be worthwhile is getting in a few months' time and have another discussion on this one. Just to maybe deep dive into a few more like e-com specifics on this as well. Discuss maybe a few campaigns. Maybe if you've got some case studies you can actually dive into, give our listeners a bit more context in regards to that.
That'd be cool.
Liam, so for our listeners who want to give SMS marketing a go, have you guys got any offers at the moment that people can take advantage of?
We actually set one up for the first. I think this is our first time we've ever sort of set up a deal for like listeners of a podcast or something. So it's really cool.
Nice.
So we wanted to offer 20% off all purchases for anyone that listens to this. So all you have to do is sign up for an account, and then there'll be a promo option, and you just put the word Salesfire in capitals.
Awesome.
And you can get 20% off, which like in our industry is huge. Like it's not something that we do very often. So that will target people who are brand new to SMS, or if you just send in smaller amounts, we always have a double credits offer. So you can buy 10,000 credits and get 10,000 free, which is a pretty cool one. Yeah. That's how you get it down to 1.6p for sort of the introductions. Or maybe if someone's listening and they do use SMS, more than likely we probably would be able to give you a better offer than what you're currently paying. So I would definitely recommend getting in touch with myself, or just through our website or something, and we can help you out.
How can we get in touch, Liam?
Either on LinkedIn, just search me, Liam Quinn, or search for Reach Interactive on social media, or if you go on our website, we have all of our contact details. We've got our emails, we've got phone numbers, and we've got a chat box. But similarly, if someone's thinking about using it and just wants some questions, has some questions, get in touch too. I'm more than happy to answer any questions and sort of give you some advice or point you in the right direction.
Awesome. We'll put all the links in the post as well, and we'll put them under the video.
Mint. Brilliant.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for joining us, Liam. Hugely appreciate it. Like you said, it'd be good to get you on again to go through some some campaign specifics and stuff like that. Discuss, some positives and that, and kind of maybe inspire people a little bit more from what they can do from SMS marketing as a whole. I think that'd be really, really interesting to do that. But thanks for joining us today. Hugely appreciate it. And anyone listening, all links are in the post. If you want to get in touch with Reach Interactive, please do. It's looking at them offers and what you can do with SMS is certainly worth a go. Worth a go. Josh, anything you want to close with, mate?
Yeah, we'll put the offer code in the comments as well. So if anyone does want to get hold of that, they can go through and use Salesfire at the checkout, I imagine, and then you get yourself 20% off. Yeah, thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries.
Much
had
appreciated.
A lot of fun. Hopefully, I gave you a bit of a taste to SMS. I know that 2 years ago, I would have put it at the bottom of my rankings if you had to rank all of the marketing channels that you use. So I completely understand sort of people being a little bit hesitant to try it. But fast forward 2 years, if I wanted to make some quick cash or build an audience, it would definitely be one of the first things that I do. And I think it has a lot of value to everyone. Even if you only have 20, 30, 50 contact numbers, you have to start small, and there are great ways to grow your audience.
Awesome.
Yeah,
right. We'll get another one in the books. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Brilliant. Cheers, Lee. Much appreciated.
Really enjoyed it.
Speak soon.